Welcome back to our fourth and final 90s internet movie from this season. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpeer.
Wait, are they all 90s? Did I miss that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're watching
Cool.
Swordfish this time, and you might be saying, Boston, this one came out in 2001, and I will say, let's talk about...
Bamcast rule.
Yeah, let's talk about the Bamcast rule of 2001 is still in the 90s.
Yep.
So, shut up.
Yep, decades carry over at least 2 to 3 years. That's the rules.
You get a little bit of wiggle room, especially something like this where, you're not shooting and releasing a movie in a month. There's gonna be some stuff that carries over. So, we're watching the infamous Swordfish here, who I shockingly have not seen.
Yeah, so we should mention, Critical Misses. The remit of the show is quote-unquote big movies that we haven't seen. This is probably big for not the reasons that Aliens was big, for example.
Correct.
Not the reasons that the DCEU was big, for example. Maybe semi-associated on that front.
Maybe semi-Razzie related, yeah.
Yes. This is big because it was kind of a movie that everybody talked about because of its cast, because of certain things that happened in the movie, and also how it was received, we'll say.
Yeah, because I think the thing that I always forget about this cast is it's actually genuinely pretty stacked. Like, you have John Travolta with his horrible facial hair.
No. 2001, dude. 2001, that was cool. He's even got the little bleach blonde part in the top. This is new metal as hell.
It is very new metal. So, however you feel about new metal depends on, I guess, how you're going to feel about his appearance here. But you're right. Very era appropriate. You have Hugh Jackman, who we love. Probably not doing much singing here, sadly.
Hold on. Let me just check something really quick. I need to see when X-Men came out.
Oh, yeah. You have Halle Berry, and you have...
2000s, the year before.
Okay. So he's hitting it big.
He's just filmed and finished doing X-Men as Wolverine. He probably already signed the contract for this and started filming it before X-Men was even out. One might probably argue.
His agent is like, man, you still gotta do this one. You signed up. They're filming. You gotta do it. And Don Cheadle in this.
I know the X-Men you just mentioned before you talked about Don Cheadle.
Oh, Halle Berry? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. She is in... It's been a really long time since I've seen the X-Men movies.
I watched the start of one the other day, and then someone in this household was like, nope, too scary, let's go. I did not want to have to explain. They were a younger watcher, so I understand that they were a little bit scared by it. Didn't want to have to explain what the opening scene of X-Men meant.
Yeah.
The one where Magneto is in prison and being separated from his parents. Didn't want to explain that one. I was
that's not...
You'll probably learn about that when you're older, maybe.
Yeah, a couple of years we'll revisit it, yeah. But I remember when this came out, I think everybody was like, all right, yeah, we have a kind of tech movie with a pretty big cast here that is... I think most of them were kind of, like you said, Hugh Jackman is doing X-Men along with Halle Berry, and a lot of them are kind of on the rise. John Travolta probably on the other side of that.
Is this his comeback movie, maybe? Is this the thing that, jumped him back to mainstream media again?
Yeah, maybe. What was he in here? I guess filmography. There we go. I was looking at his...
The General's Daughter. He did General's Daughter, and then the one before this, he did the Drew Carey Show, whatever. He did some movie called Lucky Numbers. It was Battlefield Earth in 2000, dude.
Ouch. Okay. So, it is on the ropes here for
This is him trying to find his space again.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. So it's interesting to see kind of a movie that on paper seemed pretty cool, but the nearly universal reception to this movie was sort of like, yeah, you didn't. It's not very good. Just not to put it unkindly. It's just you missed it here. Have you? Is this one that you've seen?
I have seen this one.
Okay.
I've seen it probably 2 or 3 times, mostly on one of those. So I didn't see it in the theaters. I probably saw it on the debut appearance of it on Sky, the British equivalent of cable.
Mm-hmm.
And then because they do that whole thing where they're like, this movie debuts and now it's going to be on every day for like 6 months.
Oh, sure.
So I probably saw it in that whole time frame a couple of times.
Right.
Yeah. It's a movie.
I'm excited to see it because I feel like this is the movie that when people think of early 90s internet things, like 90s internet movies, they always bring this up in the conversation as this is how you don't do it. Like, this is the cheesy one. Like, this isn't the cool. We've actually watched 3 movies that somehow all managed to make hacking and technology and counterculture and all of that look cool. You can decide for yourself how well it's aged, but you know I think the thing that we've been surprised with the other 3 movies in the season is sort of like, all right, you have shown the effects of hacking, and that's cooler than someone writing if-else statements or typing and the text coming up on the screen. You know, this is before the BBC Sherlock, so it's a lot of like text not being shown on the screen.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see in this if they learned the wrong lessons from those other 3 movies we watched of you got to show the cool stuff, which is the effect of the hacking, and not we're sitting in a room pounding Red Bulls and typing a whole bunch. They did that a little bit in Hackers, but at least that was a fun montage.
Yes. And like they did it in Sneakers too, but that was mostly like deep diving into what specific things are.
Yeah.
Like the sound testing and what the box did.
True. Yeah, that's true. So I'm kind of morbidly curious about what makes this movie bad. You know, like nobody. We say this all the time about video games. A lot of people say this about movies. Like nobody goes to make a bad movie. There are some movies that are bad out there on purpose, like Gentlemen Broncos. Like that movie's kind of bad on purpose because they're making fun of bad science fiction books. But like, nobody's out there being like, I'm gonna get all this all-star cast and just make a turd of a movie. You know, like they're not doing that. So I'm curious to see kind of where it all went wrong. Yeah.
So this comes out in June.
Okay.
It was pulled from theaters early.
Oh, okay.
Not because it wasn't selling tickets, although it probably wasn't at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But because there is a scene that involves an exploding building in this movie.
Oh, no.
And
just couldn't have worse timing for that.
Yeah, I mean, 2001 is a famous year for Americans, we'll say.
Yeah. What horrible timing for a bunch of... There's an episode of Cowboy Bebop that was censored for a really long time, too, because of a very similar scene that featured sort of accidentally similar shots. And it's just like, just the worst timing
There was an anime as well, or a cartoon or something that had like a plane-like spaceship. Like, it was this Disney film. I haven't seen it. Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, okay.
Was heavily edited because it had a spaceship that looked a lot like just a 747.
Oh, wow. Okay.
and it also came out in 2001, and it's like,
Right.
man, it's maybe let's maybe adjust
Yeah,
this a little bit.
bad timing here. Yeah. That's interesting.
For the record, my favorite handling of 2001 of the September 2001 attacks
Mm-hmm.
will forever be the Spider-Man movie, when they
Mm,
took the main shots of the buildings out of the movie, but
hmm.
they left them in the reflections in his goggles.
Right.
So it's a
Right.
really nice little, okay, we're gonna wink and nod to this a little bit, but also I don't think there's ever been a more New York movie than the Spider-Man movies,
Yeah.
particularly that one, we'll
I thought
say.
you, I thought you were gonna say Metal Gear Solid 2's ending, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna do the thing. Wait, where's?
No.
Do we missing a scene here? It's like, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah, we are.
yeah.
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 Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts here before we go? We go watch Swordfish.
I mean, what's the plot, Boston? What did these people do?
Oh
Who's the
God.
villain? Who's the hero? Who's the hacker? Who's
So John.
what does
Okay.
everybody
Let
do?
me think. John Travolta asks Hugh Jackman to write a virus to do something. It's 2001, so it's probably the stock exchange. Crash the stock exchange, maybe.
Okay. So is he like a villain, or is he like an anti-hero?
So I think if I was to guess,
Is
based
he
on
working for the government?
based on
Which
the
could
new
be
metal
either.
stylings of John Travolta, I think he starts as the hero, as like their Bosley, and then turns out to be the villain in the end.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
you don't have that like tiny little like middle goatee without being a bad guy, or Fred Durst, which depending on how you feel is also a bad guy.
He's also a bad guy. Yes.
Right.
I mean, Limp Bizkit does still suck. They said it themselves.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So
So we think John Travolta is possibly the villain. We think
right.
Hugh Jackman is the hacker.
I would think so. Yeah. I think
Okay.
Halle Berry is also a hacker, but I bet she's probably the more experienced one, and Hugh Jackman is the unproven green hacker. This is his first big job, quote unquote.
Okay. So we're thinking stock exchange. We're thinking
Yeah, I think
team of hackers.
it's either stock exchange or they're like taking something. It has to be money because all of these movies
Yeah.
it's money.
Capitalism is the bad guy in the end. Yep. We learned
Exactly.
that so far this season.
And it's either the stock exchange or like something from the government of like they don't even know how much money they have in this secret thing they have over here that nobody pays attention to. We're just gonna take a little off the top. We're just skim a little bit of that cream right off the top. That sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what the title Swordfish means though, and I'm curious to see. Is that just the admin password they find later? You know, like
I can't even remember at this point. I literally
well,
can't. I can't remember. I can't remember if that's John Travolta's secret name for himself. Like I literally.
oh sure, like the hacker alias.
Yes. Like I can't remember any of that stuff.
Right.
I will say, because I read through the trivia for this before we started recording today, there is some rather prescient lines in this movie,
Okay.
which don't actually come to light until like later the same year / the next year.
Oh wow.
There is some interesting foreshadowing of real life problems, just like in the other hacker movies. Shock shocks, who would have thought?
Your whole life is on the internet. It's like, yeah, let me tell you about like 2024, man. Sheesh. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, on that note, let's go watch the film.
Yep.
All right, we're back. The hell did we just watch?
So, I have a galaxy brain take for you, Boston.
Oh, okay. I appreciate it.
Swordfish is the original Fast and Furious for hacker movies.
Oh. Okay. I'm picking up your thesis here.
where it is entirely steeped in its times.
Mm-hmm.
It leans into the appropriate stereotypes and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
If it would have done better, and maybe we got a two sword, two fish out of this, and eventually made its way. Did I just break you?
Two sword, two fish. Oh God. Okay, go ahead.
I can't now. Now I broke myself too.
That's just the best, dumbest movie title I've ever heard. I needed that laugh. Thank you.
You're welcome. I honestly, this could have been Fast and the Furious. If the movie-going audiences at the time would have said, well, screw Fast and Furious, that's just a bunch of like streamlines and cars. Let's get down with the hackers.
Right.
This could have been the Fast and the Furious.
Could have been the like, man, Swordfish 7 is really good. Like, but you gotta watch like the first two, and they're not. The
five
first
is
one's
vital.
Yeah, like
Swordfish with a 5 instead of an S. Swordfish for 5. For 5
fishes. But like, you gotta watch the first two. But like, they're really cheap. Remember when they came out? Like, just don't. They came out in 2001.
Full of CG, but it made a bunch of money, so that's why we got Sword for 5-ish. And that's the key component of the franchise.
Sword ampersand fish. It's really the low one. Oh God.
I'm sorry, but I'm sure as we'll go through it, there is so many similarities between this and Fast and the Furious.
The only
they
thing
are cut from the same cloth.
I love how much this is a movie of its time too, because Vinnie Jones is in it. And if you needed like
he has the Batman monologue too.
He does.
He always gets.
If you need a big British dude to be intimidating for approximately 3 lines,
literally,
Vinnie Jones is your dude.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And they've even got the long-haired bad guy from Mission Impossible 2 with the wavy hair.
Yep.
I was like, why do I know that guy's face? I know that guy's face, and it's from a bad movie that I also happen to love. And it turns out it's Mission Impossible 2.
God.
I don't know his name.
This movie...
It's so weird, dude.
I can't say that I didn't like it.
That's what I'm saying. It's not. Okay, let's just get that over. It's a bad movie.
I can say it's not good.
In modern day parlance, Swordfish is a bad movie.
It's a movie that like opens with like the most unearned, almost Tarantino riff, like
movies.
Yeah, like he's this
bashing Hollywood.
He's like this like monologue from a character that just isn't interesting yet.
And I meant to look it up, but I think he's talking about a heist movie, like a bank job movie at the same time.
Right.
And it's like, how meta are you trying to go with this?
God, what movie does he mention? I don't remember. But like, it's totally unearned. Like, John Travolta does not have enough charisma to carry this multi-minute monologue at the beginning of this movie. And then to have this, like, it's a... The thing that I thought watching this movie is, like, you watch something like the Ocean's movie, especially, like, Ocean's 11, it's this, like, the heist, the misdirection, all of this stuff is this, like, ballet dancer dancing on barbed wire and not cutting their feet. And then you watch Swordfish, and it's just a hippo falling off a cliff. Like, they just, like, they try to do the thing that the Ocean's movies do, which is, like, it's misdirection, you're questioning everything about the movie, but they're too blatant about it. Like, John Travolta...
Dog Day Afternoon is the movie.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, John Travolta's like,
which
hey,
is a bank robbery movie.
Dog Day Afternoon, misdirection, who's that frozen dude in the wine cellar? Who knows? And it's like, man, you Yeah, maybe this movie would have been better, better misdirection movie with David Bowie playing Tesla in it, but sadly it did not have that in here. So,
Dude, could you imagine David Bowie as whatever his name is?
I
I can't
watch the
literally
hell
don't
out
even
of
know
that
his
movie.
name.
Yeah, what is that?
Begins with a G. Gabriel.
Yeah, of course it's Gabriel. Gabriel Shear. Just not a great, but gotta say, his outfits in the movie were 100% on point for that character.
Yes. Did you notice his car, by the way?
No, I'm not a big car guy, so I never noticed the car.
His car is a TVR. TVR at the time was built exclusively in England. That's why it's a right hand side wheel.
I was wondering why the steering wheel was on the other side.
Also super expensive, and also there was like 20 of them at the time that this film was filmed.
Jeez, it's probably where most of the budget went to.
No,
God.
dude, it went to green screen hacking of worms getting compiled. We'll get it.
Yeah, we'll get there. But like, this movie is trying so hard in every facet of it. It's trying too hard to be cool. It's trying too hard to be edgy. It's trying way too hard to be sexy and not earning any of it. And like, none of the stuff it tries to do ever really comes together. Even the big mystery.
The concept about the hostages wearing C4 surrounded by ball bearings is horrifying. That is cool as hell and horrifying.
I gotta give it to that. I think the CG in that intro scene,
the opening explosion is
where they're
horrifying.
like spinning around the block, obviously hasn't aged very well, but I think that's a cool idea. It's this moment of like, oh yeah, they got the bomb jackets, ha ha ha, and they're like, no,
and by the way, if
but
they
also
leave the bank, the bomb goes off. Just so you know,
I'm a for real bad guy, not just like this lady's gonna blow up. Like I'm gonna take out this whole city block. It's like, all right, that was
he's
cool.
like, hey, by the way, it's too late. Everybody take cover. And then that explosion, the explosion that starts it, I think is fantastic. Like giving the fact that this guy is a genuine villain, like you said,
right?
But also the fact that it's literally the biggest claymore on the planet is terrifying, because it's not the explosion that does the damage. It's the hundreds of millions of ball bearings that get shot out all over the place.
It's such a cool sound too, that like pew 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 pew, like that noise, real good. Like that's a real standout scene in that movie, and I was actually genuinely sort of surprised and interested in the way that they pulled it off, that the movie begins and ends with that scene. Turns out it's actually not the coolest action scene in this movie, even though it's kind of a banger of an opening for this movie.
Well, we'll get to the coolest action scene. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but we'll get there.
You probably do. It's a Fast and Furious movie. There's gonna be a cool.
Yes, exactly. It's the Fast and Furious moment from this movie. This is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like, them getting, oh God, what is his Stanley Jobson, which is just sure.
Hey, if you're gonna have an everyman, call him Stanley Jobson. Maybe don't cast Hugh Jackman as your everyman. But
no,
at this point, he's not Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman at this point,
right? He's not
at this point.
Jackman.
He is everyman. Like he is. He could get away with it. This is Real Steel Hugh Jackman, which...
Oh, man, Real Steel's a great movie.
It was so good. And considering it's a movie based on Rock'em Sock'em Robots, that's great.
Man. But I do like that they are leaning so hard into, Hugh Jackman, American everyman actor. Look at the American flag on his jacket. He's American. It's like... I mean... No, but you go to pretty good lengths to try and prove it.
I mean, can we also just talk about how both him and his wife are the worst parents that exist on the face of this planet, like ever? His ex-wife, I should say. They're so terrible
so bad
people.
I love his ex-wife's just like, no, he's a film financier, and it's like, bro, come on. Like even Hugh Jackman's character knows what's going on.
As she's walking through the house full of adult videos
Right.
and adult paraphernalia and
Yep.
booze and drugs and everything all
Right.
over the place.
Like,
It's like,
come
really?
on, man. Oh, man. Halle Berry's character here is
Passable. This is not Halle Berry's best performance by a long shot.
It's serviceable.
She is the honeypot and she plays it well.
Right. And I don't think it...
I hate the fact that that's the role they give her in this as well.
Yeah, and like, I don't even think the character is interesting enough to earn the like constant bait and switches throughout the movie. Because like you keep learning new things and then the movie's like, haha, just kidding. Kind of throughout the entirety of it. And it's just sort of like, okay.
But that's because every scene she's in is a bait and switch. There's a different... She's not given any development because every single scene she's in, it's like, she's one thing, no, she's not, no, she's not. Like,
right. Aren't you Gabriel's lady? Oh, maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. Goodbye. Anyways, now I'm DEA. But I'm not. Goodbye. It's just like, what? Okay. Cool. I kind of wish we got more Don Cheadle in this movie. I thought he did a pretty good job in this. As the kind of trying to get things done federal agent here.
The test scene is one of the most awkward scenes I've ever seen in my life, for the record.
Yeah, and like...
We can't even really talk about what happens because of the nature of our show being PG.
Because it doesn't need to be the gun and the
extracurricular activities.
Yeah, like it doesn't... It could just be the gun because you already know that Gabriel is going to kill people. He blew up a city block in the beginning of the movie.
No, he did that 4 days from now. That hasn't happened yet.
That's fair, but we as the viewers, you know, like it's and
the person holding the gun is Vinnie Jones,
right?
By the way,
like that dude's gonna kill a dude, like. But I think one of the biggest missed opportunities for this movie is when Gabriel really puts the screws to Stanley and says like, "All right, you're lying to me. How did you actually do it?" And he's like, ha ha ha, just a worm. And he's like, okay, cool. But like, how did you actually do it? And they do that 3 or 4 times. And at the end, he's basically like, I just kind of see the code and I know what I need to do. And that's a cool thing for that character to have. He's not...
Because there are legitimate people like that. Like, there are legitimate people who just have the ability to see something and understand it.
Right. So, like, he would have been able to do that in 60 seconds with Vinnie Jones about to shoot him. And that still would have been a cool scene, but you had to 2001 it and have that, like, additional thing on top. And it's just like, we're not prudes or anything. Like,
no,
it's fine.
We
but
just
it's just literally,
we just can't talk about it on the show because of the nature of our show.
It's just kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And I will say, it tickles me. They show so much typing in this movie, and it's such BS typing. It's hilarious. It's literally just people going da 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 on a keyboard. There's no sense, no reason to it. Cool.
It's
whatever,
that famous
NCIS
scene where 2 people are typing gibberish on the same keyboard at the same time. Like it's just like tap 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 tap. It's just
there's a lot of that in this movie, and this is where my Fast and the Furious moment came in. Because I was thinking, okay, this is very edgy. This is the music so far has been super like dance electro, like a little bit of metal mixed in there.
Not
the
a lot of like
is actually pretty good, I think, in this. Like,
I don't think it's as outstanding to me as like Hackers. Hackers to me seems like a more formative kind of
because it's
forward
got the Prodigy in it, so of course it is.
Yeah, but like Hackers felt a little bit more true to its culture. Of like, this is at the time what you would listen to.
This was very counterculture.
Right. These records are going to be hotter 5 years from now, and you're listening to it in Hackers. I agree with you. I think the soundtrack here is pretty good, but it wasn't full of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, all right,
Mhm.
sure.
It did feel like I say the soundtrack felt very Fast and Furious, where it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
2000. Who is still listening to Rollin'? It's like, why is that on
Roland.
the soundtrack for this
Yeah.
movie? Like, because
Oh my
it's in
god.
Fast and Furious 1. Like,
Yeah.
it's right there. But when they, after the test, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the house. You're gonna come with us, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk about the thing. And
Mm-hmm.
as they get to the house, you've got the three ladies who are like, do you want to take a swim? I was like, well, I don't have a suit. And they're like, you don't need one. And then they all strip and jump into the
Right. And
pool.
it's like,
And
uh-huh.
literally at that moment, I was like, is this Fast and Furious of hacking movies?
Right,
Because
exactly. Your
that's the
your
shot
car
that
meet.
you get in the car meet.
Yeah,
Yes, it's the
exactly.
people dancing. It's the close-ups of ladies' rear ends. Like, it's
Right.
that
Short
whole
skirt
thing.
dancing scenes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
100%.
That's
Oh
where it
god.
came from.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I kind of like the setup they have for Stanley to use. Like his little hacking den that they have where he's like sipping wine and making this
No, no,
multi.
no, no. We'll talk about the wine sipping later because that
Oh,
is an
that's true.
important scene.
That does come later. But the
The eight
kind,
monitor setup.
yeah, like they're his kind of uh
But dude, it allows you to get on 7 networks at once,
I
Boston.
know. But Gabriel wants him to make a hydra, a multi-headed
Uh-huh.
worm, and I'm like, uh-huh. Yep, 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 sure.
So as someone from the tech field, how
Uh-huh.
much did this bother you? How much did this just
You know,
itch your skin?
I never really get bothered by like fake tech and stuff because it's like the nature of the beast. You know, you watch it and you're like, none of that. That's not how that works. That's not. But you don't expect, like we've been talking about this whole season. You kind of don't expect the reality of it to be on the screen because the reality of it is like I'm gonna grab some code snippets from GitHub. It's not working. I'm gonna spend the next 4 hours on Stack Overflow. This guy has the answer. Tippy tappy typing. Okay, that works. It's like it's not as exciting as some of this other stuff, but this one is probably the most egregious of any time we see stuff on screen.
It's just a bunch of BS.
Well, no, it's kind of worse than that because like everything they have on screen is real stuff. It's just not networking stuff or it's not worm stuff or it's not hacking
Uh-huh.
stuff. It's like DNS backend workings. And it's like, yeah, that does exist, but like you're not going to use it when you're making a worm. You know, it's not none of this stuff is going to come up. So it's that kind of middle ground of like all this stuff is real, but it's just in the wrong place pretty consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do get the reveal of Holly, the daughter here,
Yes.
who is left at school. It's the day after, and he goes and drives to his kid's school where he's not allowed to talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
And she has the indestructible phone, dude. She has the Nokia 3300, the phone that cannot be stopped.
Oh, that phone. I love that
Like,
phone.
cutting edge at the time as well, for the record, folks.
Yep.
Like, that is a cutting edge phone at the time, but that is a phone that if you're not an old like we are,
Mm-hmm.
you should Google like the Nokia 3300. It was the originator of Snake. It
Yes.
was it was the most powerhouse of powerhouse phones of the time
And
because that
literally
thing
indestructible.
that thing would it's like the original Game Boy. Like it could go
Right.
through a nuke explosion and it would still work.
Yep. Yeah, man, what a phone. Memories.
We do get the reveal here though of Operation Swordfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got your wish. It was in the movie.
Yeah. I just like so much of this like back end black cell US senator thing is all just they try so hard and I feel like it really doesn't come together.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's one of the biggest bummers in the movie because I think where Gabriel eventually gets to is interesting. But
Yes.
I think
There is some philosophical and moral debates to be had about
right.
Gabriel and his aims.
And I think it would have been much punchier, more impactful, had all of this kind of U.S. government, like, wet works stuff kind of come together a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at least for once, it wasn't capitalism, dude. We got a 3 for 4 on the season this year. Although technically, he's fighting for the government, which is a capitalist government trying to maintain capitalism. So it could be capitalism. So we give it like a 3.5 out of 4.
The dark specter of capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah,
But yeah, for those who haven't seen the movie, it's discretionary funds that were done in secret to basically fund a bunch of black bag operations, off the book kind of stuff, and then the companies that held them, and the companies that held them all went out of business, but they were all liquidated. But the money is still there, and it's been gaining interest for 20 years, something like that.
Yeah, because it started with like $400 million, and then he's like, now it's like $9 billion.
Yeah, $9.2 billion.
Right. Oh, 2001. You're so cute. $9 billion.
Yep. It's the Dr. Evil all over again.
Lamau, even. But, like, I think that's an interesting...
Dude, that's scary, by the way. The fact that $9.2 billion in 2001 was considered a ridiculous amount of money.
like
less than, like, just over 20 years later, that's nothing.
Right.
Like, that's terrifying.
And, like, it's a cool... It's a cool idea. Like, I think that's some of the stuff that the other movies in this season have been flirting with, which is kind of like, you know, how do we take this stockpile of cash that either should be ours and isn't, or is theirs and shouldn't be, and how do we kind of manipulate it in our favor? But this one is very much like, we're just gonna take it to keep doing the things that we should be doing.
Yes. And he kills a senator because the senator sent a hit squad after him.
Right.
Which, the TVR, like the car scene with the guns and the rifles, it's a good scene. It's a good little action scene. It's not terrible. It's a fine little action scene. The fact that he pulls a 50 cal out of his trunk.
And you get the, like, Rambo action scenes of, like, like, the whole, like, multi-shot, like, putting this gun together, and then John Travolta turns the corner
Single
and
just... arms of 50 cal.
Like, it's just... John Travolta does his best in the movie, but he's still John Travolta. Like, you still can't get away from... You put that crummy little nu metal frontman, like, goatee on him, and he's still...
Hey, don't insult the stab that way. Thank you very much.
Hey, those were piercings.
David
Draymond
had an answer to that.
David Draymond didn't sacrifice for this.
Oh man! So here is the thing that I think is where this movie has its biggest problem, because we know that apparently one of my scars fell down. We know that Fast and the Furious, while that's filming, we know that Vin Diesel and Paul Walker are car guys. We know that about them. They genuinely are car bros,
right?
Which, for those of you who haven't seen the joke, a car guy is just a horse girl in male format because they're both the same thing.
Pretty good.
Yeah, because they both even use horsepower. That tells you exactly what you need to know. They're both car bros, so you know that, like, while they're filming, they're talking about cars, they're talking about all this kind of stuff that they want to do and what they might be able to do while they're filming. Especially as the movies go on and they get, like, executive producer kind of credits in them. This movie, and I read the trivia on this, between takes, John Travolta and Hugh Jackman were just walking around singing show tunes together because they're both theater kids. They're not talking about hacking. They're literally walking around singing show tunes.
Oh man. And like as part of this whole, the senator told Gabriel no, and Gabriel says no, I'm gonna do it anyways. Like you can't stop this train. It's left the station. We almost get a cool scene where Gabriel's like, look, I've changed my identity so many times for you. I don't even know who I am anymore. And
It's
like,
such a good little. That line
we get
is
so
gold.
close.
It's
Like,
so good.
it's really good. And like, we get so close and they just immediately drop it. It's like, you were so close to greatness.
Hmm. Like you almost had a relatable villain. Like you
Right.
almost had the dude who. You almost had Peacemaker before Peacemaker was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
he's, and it's a different John, ironically enough, as well, just to really
Right.
rub salt in the wound. But he's almost. Gabriel is almost relatable. Almost.
Yep.
He has a few moments here and there where you're just like, yeah, like this dude is insane, but
Yeah.
he's got some relatable points to him where like the problem is he's so hyped up on his own spiel
Yeah.
that he's literally he's fed so much into the system that he's like, yeah, this is just who I am now. I am a tool, a weapon of counter-terrorism, even though it's actually just terrorism.
Right. Just bigger terrorism.
Yeah.
Terrorism XL.
Like they kill a hostage, we kill a village. They
Right.
they blow up a hospital, we blow up 10.
Right.
Like they hijack a plane, we take out an airport. It's like, escalation does really work.
And that's a pretty good speech coming out of John
It is.
Travolta too. Like, and like
It
a
is.
lot of this is coming on the heels of the scene that happens right before the car chase sort of assassination attempt is, you know, him finding the real dude in the wine cellar dead and frozen, and then immediately John Travolta's like, what happened to you? Looks like you saw a ghost. And it's like, all right, that's pretty good. And then he's like, hey, dog day afternoon, misdirection, wink. And it's like, oh, all right, okay, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, and anyway, John Travolta kills the senator.
Yeah.
And then we basically get to the final sequence, which is the bank. Like they actually go to the bank.
We did miss the wine drinking hacking
Oh, the
scene.
hacking montage. Yes.
Yeah, which is bad.
Terrible.
Like, I like Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire.
That dance scene is incredible and terrible at the same time.
That dance scene is really great because I agree with everybody's impression that is what Peter Parker would think is cool, with Tobey Maguire playing Peter Parker. So I think it works.
And also, he's full up in his ego at that moment in time.
Right.
He doesn't care what anybody thinks, says, or does.
Right. And this scene, the hacking scene, I think gets close to the meat of the frustration of working on some code or a project or something that I think Hackers does really well, kind of like on the other side of the coin, where he's like, no, yes, and has like breakthroughs, and he gets stuck, and he, you know, there's that push and pull of like, I'm a genius, I'm stupid, I'm the best, you know, like it does all of that stuff, but they do it in the most cheesy, like, I'm dancing with a glass of wine like sort of thing that just like Also, speaking of dancing with a glass of wine, reminds me of, I forgot to mention, John Travolta holds a cigar really weird in this movie. Like,
yeah, he holds it oddly.
Yeah, like how you're like pitching it from the bottom or something. Like, I don't. It's like the president from The West Wing. Every time he puts on a jacket, it's like, that's not. Why are you doing that? But yeah, like that whole hacking scene is weird. But yeah, like we loop back around to the bank after the scene of like, I kind of like the misdirection scene with Don Cheadle interviewing.
We haven't talked about him enough in this.
No, he's interviewing the guy that they caught at the beginning of the movie.
The original hacker.
Yeah, with the
Yes.
two passports, and they're interviewing him, and suddenly he can't speak English, and he has the IKEA's from Finland the line, which is actually pretty good. Um, and I kind of like that misdirection of like Vinnie Jones is here to kill the dude, and he's calling him. His boss is calling him away. It's important.
Mhm.
That whole thing I thought
The,
was pretty
the
interesting.
the gun tracking his head
Hmm.
as he's looking into the reflective mirror. It's a really good shot. It's a really good shot.
And I really like Don Cheadle's character messing up the lawyer, of just like hitting him with a door and like shoving him out of the room and like splashing coffee on him. It's not just like, oh, let me escort you out of the room. It's just like, no, I'm gonna do
Mhm.
some harm to you. Get out of my room. Um,
So this is again something that we get so much better later because this scene is hyping up the villain. This is
mhm.
the attempt at the John Wick scene. This is the
Right,
Baba Yaga scene, except it's not as good and it's actually pretty terrible.
right, right. So like you said, we've sort of looped back to the bank heist scene. Thankfully, they cut out most of it, and you get Hugh Jackman being like, "Oh, well, get down," and then they fast forward through the sort of Matrix bullet time shot, which I thought was pretty funny, and then you sort of start dealing with the aftermath there. Um,
Yeah. And
I
I like the fact that Hugh Jackman secretly built in a screw you, but the
mhm,
explosion messed with the clocks on the machines because it wasn't
right.
supposed to happen for another 6 hours.
Right.
Like,
He's just like, alas. I also really
oh,
do like the scene when they first bust into the bank, and he's like, all right, I need a key for this server area over there. And he's like, key? I don't know what key you're talking about. They just
and
bump
Vinnie
him.
Jones drives a car into him.
Yeah, they bump him with the car, and he's like, anyways, here's the key. Bye. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
great. Yes, perfect. Also, had like a real PTSD moment. All of those Dell servers in that closet are like the servers I cut my teeth on for about 10 years, and the
Oh,
faceplates on
jeez.
those things never fit right. So it's a lot of like these big, like foot long faceplates that you push in on the side to try and click into these servers, and they just never work. So you just have the pile in the corner of just like, screw these things. I'm not using the stupid faceplates. So screw those faceplates. Whoever got them
I
on the
know
servers, credit to you.
it seemed like it'd work fine in this.
Yeah,
Maybe
might
maybe
just
the problem was the user.
my fingers. Yep,
Uh-huh.
pepcac. Yeah. Um, but I this whole scene is kind of interesting. Of just like I really like the big build up for him deploying the Hydra is like, all right, get on this computer. I need the disk. I put the disk in. I tippy tappy type for like 10 seconds. He's like, boop. All right, done. It's just like, oh yeah, because he
No, no,
already
no.
wrote it.
No, no, no. He's doing it, and he's doing it as quickly as he can do it because they
Mhm.
decided to hang one of the few black characters in the movie.
Well, no, that's the second part. When
No,
he
that's this part, dude.
no, because
Because he gives him 60 seconds to figure it out.
yeah, that's after they because they're like, all right, get this done and you'll have your kid, and he's like, okay, give me
Oh,
the
okay.
disk. Where are the bank routing numbers? Tap tap tap. All right, I'm done.
Oh,
Verify it.
yeah, and then
Yep, good.
Holly gets shoved out the window, and you get the classic cop coming up from the side of the screen
Right,
to collect the
right.
hostage
And
thing.
then they hang the only person of color in this entire movie, including background actors. And then they're like,
There's like
it's
two dudes. There's two or three.
right,
Like, but she's the only one with speaking lines, it feels
right.
like.
And then they're like, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna kill this
Because
person
Don,
unless you do it."
actually, Don Cheadle's in this movie, so clearly it's not.
Fair enough. So we have
But
two people.
one of the few, we'll
Yeah,
say.
the optics are
And they
not great.
literally hang them.
Right. And this is one of the scenes that I think is a real bummer in this movie, and it's another unearned scene because he does the hacking. He's just like every X seconds or minutes, it bounces to another bank. It never stops. You're never gonna get this money. It's nothing I can do. I can't stop it. And then they hang Ginger, and they're like, "Yeah, man, you better figure it out because she has what about 60 seconds to live." It's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
all right, okay, it's just a callback. That's fine. And he does it, like he stops the money and he routes
Transfers
it.
it to their accounts.
Yeah, and
I
he
do.
verifies.
I do like the fact that every single time he says it's done, Gabriel's like, verify this.
Yep.
Like, no, I'm not going to take your word for it. You need to verify this.
Yeah, like he
for
knows
me
what he's
right now.
doing, and he's not gonna
Uh-huh.
just trust. He doesn't trust anybody, which I think is really smart. And then they, I love that they bring down Ginger. He immediately shoots her and says, she was DEA anyways. Come on, Stan. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
God. And then they're off to the races.
Bus.
Into the bus. Yeah, this scene is real good.
Uh-huh. Because they're supposed to go to the airport where the FBI is waiting.
Yep.
And they don't go to the airport, do they, Boston?
No, misdirection. Yeah, this scene is super cool because
So this is the Fast and Furious scene that you were talking about?
it really is, yeah, because like it's a pretty okay chase scene. You know, they're just gonna make it to the airport. It's 25 minutes until they're there. 20 minutes. They got a plane ready. All that stuff. And then for them to just lift the bus up via helicopter is incredibly cool.
He's already said as well he wants the airspace clear for 5 miles. So
Right.
That's a one line that lays up this entire thing where it's just like, yeah, because they have a lift chopper. I did say out loud, this is some GTA 5 stuff right now.
Yes, it really is.
Because they literally pick up the bus. With the helicopter that if you see it, it looks like one of the Thunderbirds where it's got the big hole in the middle of it. It's designed for picking up like big crates.
Yeah.
And they just pick the bus up because why not?
It's so cool. And then of course like things go wrong and they just like
strong winds make fools of us all, Boston.
It's a pretty good line. That's a very Fast and Furious line of just like, I'm 13.
We got a strong wind condition.
Yeah. And like, I like that they just bust through a big neon sign. Like, they run into like a crane because they can't pull up fast enough. Just like, this is incredibly cool. This is a much cooler scene than this movie.
I was expecting this movie to have. At the top of a building, dude.
It's so good. The bus is like only held on with two points at some point. That's cool too. Yep. This is a cool scene. Sadly, the bus doesn't explode at any point. That really would have been like
because if it explodes, it's full of people wearing C4, Boston.
I know. John Travolta's a bad guy though. Who knows what he's capable of?
So you would have wanted ball bearings from the top of that building getting exploded all over the city?
That would have been pretty cool. But yeah, like this is the kind of ending of this movie that I feel like isn't really earned of.
Well, Hugh Jackman uses the RPG that Vinny did his monologue about, which we can't repeat his monologue for obvious reasons. It's a Vinny Jones monologue.
It's a very Vinny Jones monologue, but like, of course, he just uses this thing, to
blow up a chopper.
Right. Gabriel gets blown up along. No, Ginger isn't there because she's dead in the bank. But like, Gabriel blows up, and he's just like, well, clearly that's the end. Oh, he was a Mossad agent, and I was like, oh boy, okay, sure, woof, all right, 2001. And then like, there's no record of Ginger, and she didn't work for the DA. We can't find her body. Gasp. And then like, for some reason, Stan is the one who has to identify the charred corpse of Gabriel and realizes it's the one from the fridge. And I'm just like, of course it was.
That's when he has the misdirection flashback, which is just like,
which you don't need. This is the point of the movie.
Yeah.
You
could have just cut from him having a little smile on his face
Right, and be like,
As in
yep,
say, "Oh, you
that's
got me.
him.
You got
What a
me.
shame.
You got me." And
Yep.
then it could have cut to the end, like
Right.
the pre-credits sequence. But no, they had to spell it out for everybody just in case you missed it.
Missing the point of Ocean's 11, where the flashback scene is the important part of the heist. Like, yeah. Yeah, and then, like you said, they're just on a boat being like, yep, we got the money.
They empty the money into an account, they drive off on a boat, and then a different boat explodes, which was apparently had a terrorist in it. But, so that sequence has its issues because it kind of also tries to paint Gabriel out as the good guy.
Right, which
is weird.
Is also wrong and bad. He's not. You shouldn't do that.
I think it probably should have played that a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to paint Gabriel out as the good guy or a good guy, doing it for the freedoms of America and so on and so forth. But I think the problem is, I think if you get a sequel to this, you've got a franchise villain on your hands in Gabriel,
who's now like super rich.
Yeah, super rich, and he can buy nukes in Minsk, for 40 million. He can if he gets 5, he gets a package deal. Like,
such a good line of like, if I buy half a dozen, I get a discount or whatever. It's just like, that's real. The
way he just throws it offhandedly,
right? Like he's buying a baker's dozen of donuts. And he's like, I get a free donut. How can you pass up a free donut? He's like, I get a discount for 6 nukes. How can you pass it up? It's like undeniable sales. I have my member card and I just scan it at the register. It's great. Like, yeah, it's
again a great line and a great delivery.
Yeah, in a movie that like can't figure out how to do its own thing. I did want to give credit here. I had to look him up because I couldn't remember his name. Timothy Amundsen is the curly-haired agent who is like his big delivery of like airborne. It's like, well, where's the vehicle now? And he's like, airborne. That's the guy from Psych, Agent Lassiter, who's a really great actor. And I was happy to see him in this one.
That line delivery is wrong. The line delivery is fine. The line is wrong because he's reporting to the FBI guy. He's like, look, so it didn't turn onto the airport. It's heading down First Avenue.
Right.
And the guy's like, well, okay, let's go to First Avenue. And he's like, well, it's not on First Avenue anymore. He's like, well, where is it? And he says it's airborne. The line should have been, it's above First Avenue.
Right.
That's the line.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then cut back to the bus being lifted off by a helicopter kind of thing.
And like, what? This whole movie is just like.
So you tell me, am I wrong?
Go ahead.
Is my galaxy brain thesis take on this is the Fast and the Furious for hacker movies? Is that wrong?
Because where the paths diverge here. The path untaken is the Swordfish connected universe of movies, and the one we took was the VHS stealing Fast and Furious thing. Like, I think you might be right. If choices had been different, if everything had been different, John Travolta might have been the 10-film villain that just ended this year.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Right.
It's like
you finally got me. In the 7th movie, he comes back with the little facial, like the facial hair. Like,
yeah, dude. And Don Cheadle comes back in like number 8.
That's right.
Like,
number 6, everyone has
everyone
has a really weird haircut in the 6th one. Like
Jason Statham could still be his fixer. Like, it's
oh my god, Jason Statham would be in all of these. There would still be a Jason Statham spinoff.
Dude,
that's just the nature of things.
Imagine Hobbs and Shaw, except instead of The Rock, it's Vin Diesel. It's not Vin Diesel. It's Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones and Jason Statham that movie.
There's always a Lighthouse. There's always a Jason Statham action movie spinoff. Man, Swordfish.
I'm not wrong. I will die on this hill. This is the Fast and the Furious in front of hacker movies, because they both got panned commercially. Like, they both got panned by the critics The only difference is people went to see Fast and the Furious, and not many people went to see this movie.
And Swordfish is certainly not the worst movie I've seen. It's the worst.
It's not
movie
even the worst movie we've seen on this show.
No, I think it's the worst movie this season, but it's not. It's not terrible. It's just not very good, and it's. You can see a great movie shining through with a better script that's a little bit more tightly written. It trusts the audience a little bit more. Like, all of the actors in here are solid. I mean, Halle Berry is a good actor. She just has a bad role or direction or something here. Like, it doesn't come together in this movie.
It's also worth saying that Hugh Jackman technically works for the cops, so he's also a cop in this movie, just like Paul Walker was in the first Fast and the Furious movie.
That's true. And, like, you see these flashes of brilliance from John Travolta in this movie of just, like...
Some of his... He chews the scenery.
Yeah.
Like... And in some of them, he is genuinely incredible. And in others, it's just like, dude, what are you talking about? The problem with the opening monologue is if you haven't seen that movie that he's talking about, then you don't know. Right. I had no point of reference because I haven't seen the movie he's talking about. The same with whatever movie he's talking about later.
Right.
Like, I haven't seen either of those. So
it's like Metal Gear Solid 3 when he's talking about the Great Escape and the intro of that. And it's just like, okay, you messed up one of the escapees in this movie. It's like an important plot part at the beginning of MGS3. But I don't know that because I'm not watching and seen The Great Escape. So, like, okay. So, like...
That has to... So, we have to have a Steve McQueen season at some point.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Let's put that on the list.
Let's talk about Rongans.
Yeah. So, like, Swordfish is a tough one because it could be such a great movie, and it's
so close.
Isn't.
It's so close to greatness.
So many, like, different little choices here and there could have made it really great, or at least, like, leaned into the cheesiness. Because imagine if you could just get another of these movies, like X-Men doesn't take off and catch on like wildfire. Hugh Jackman comes back for another one of these, and they just kind of lean into the stupidity of it. Fast and Furious style, and you probably could have had a couple of dumb, fun hacker movies in this thing.
12 of them in total.
That's right. Including Jason Statham spinoffs.
Yep.
Man. Yeah, I don't know, man. Any final ratings?
Let's go.
Yeah, Swordfish here on Rotten Tomatoes, 26% on the tomato meter with 139 reviews. 59% audience score, which seems about right.
I was going to say I'm probably closer to that than I am the 20%. Jeez.
20 is brutal. 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb of almost 200,000 reviewers, and 2.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I'm like right there. 5 to
5.5 is about right, I think.
Yeah, like that, like 2.5 out of 2.7 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10. It's like just a little bit better than 5 out of 10. Not much. It's not.
And to be honest,
great.
If it wasn't for those occasional moments of greatness that this movie shows, like it would probably be like a 3. Like it would be a movie I struggle with, I think.
Yeah. Let's do our ratings here, or ranking here, real quick.
Okay, I can
4
go.
movies this season.
I've already been thinking about this. And I'm hoping you're probably going to be exactly the same as me. I think you might be.
So let's hit your number 4 then.
Swordfish.
Done. Absolutely. Number 3.
The Net.
Yes. Okay. I can do that. Number 2.
Sneakers.
Yep.
Hackers.
You got it. Got it in 1. Hackers is so good. Sneakers is so good.
Like, I think the problem, the only reason Sneakers is not higher on this list is because Sneakers is very much a grown-up world kind of movie. Hackers is right in our oeuvre. It is the counterculture, late 90s, early 2000s, like
spray painted half
pipe,
listening to the Prodigy. Yeah.
Playing Wipeout.
Yeah, playing whatever Wipeout Super Alpha that was. Oh man, that movie's good. Yeah. Well, all right. That's season 29. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Quick reminder here, we do have a production meeting in between this season and the next. If you want to get the exclusive...
legitimately forgot we'd already recorded that production meeting.
We have. If you want to get the exclusive access to that at the $5 tier or higher, that's over at patreon.com/E1M1.
Oh, do I still do the ones and numbers in this show? I guess I bet the ones and numbers. Yes, yeah. The ones and numbers.
You can get that. If you haven't listened to the production meetings, they're really good. If you want to kind of get the... I would say it's how the sausage is made. We're pulling up the spreadsheet. We're coming up with season ideas. We're trying to figure out what stuff we add, what stuff we cut, kind of figuring out what goes in a season, what maybe gets pulled into another season, occasionally coming up with these brilliant flashes of ridiculousness that eventually turns into seasons. And
I'm just saying, we have a season pencil. Well, we have to try and schedule better for October for spooky season,
right?
And I think your suggestion a couple of production meetings ago might end up having to be that season this year.
Yeah, and if you also want to get a little bit of a preview of what movies are going to be coming up in the next season, we talk about all of the movies. If you want to watch them before, if you're not watching along with us, go check that out over there. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to another season of Critical Misses. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.